Imagine you're in 3rd grade and you're in Miss Smith's class and you're coloring the house. It's coloring day. It's like your favorite day. Like this is Brandon's shit. Like he loves coloring day. And you make the moon purple. And she comes up to you and she puts her hand on your shoulder and she goes, Brandon, the moon's not purple, silly. And it's like this innocent thing that means nothing. But all the kids laugh at you.
Yep.
And she meant zero harm. But your brain, making meaning of experiences, says to itself, when I'm me, they're suffering. I'm going to turn me off. And the one thing you always wanted to be was an artist, and now you won't even touch a paintbrush because of that one experience when you were in 3rd grade. So this concept, I get why people say big T, little t, but I'm like, was that not traumatic? Is that not as impactful? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. That's just my view on it.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, I help people of all ranges. It's wild to me, dude. Like I had this idea persona in my brain because my background's always branding and marketing, right? And I was like, I know my customer persona. They're going to look like this, act like this, be from this environment. Dude, I've coached people who are executives at gigantic companies that every single one of us have heard of. And I've coached doctors and lawyers and moms and dads and everybody in between. And I came to realize this impacts everybody.
Yeah.
When you go look at the research around it, Dr. Felitti, Kaiser Permanente, and the California Center for Disease Control in the mid-90s did this thing called the ACE study. Have you heard of this?
No.
It's the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. And what they found was they were trying to actually create a correlation between obesity and child abuse. It just was an accidental by happenstance thing that Dr. Felitti kind of like put 2 and 2 together with this one particular patient. And what they came to find is that on average, most people have had at least one adverse childhood experience. Now that could be things like a parent getting divorced, right? Now it's almost every single kid in America, which is heartbreaking, right? You got a parent getting divorced. Did a parent ever hit you? Did they ever hit each other? Did a family member ever go to prison or jail? Was a family member suicidal? Were you ever molested? Did you ever feel like you were unloved? Was no one there to take care of you, take you to the doctor? Did you have to wear dirty clothes, etc.? 10 questions. I answered yes to all 10 of these questions. And here's what's interesting about the research. If you answer yes to 1, which you probably will, there's an 83% chance that you answer yes to 2 or more. When you get to 4 or more, this is where it gets really interesting. There's a 5,200% increased likelihood that you'll commit suicide.
Wow.
2,200% increased likelihood that you'll be an alcoholic, and 2,000% increased likelihood that you'll smoke cigarettes. Not to mention, and this is what's really interesting, that there's a up to 10 times higher chance that you'll have early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, pulmonary embolisms, heart attack, cancers, diabetes, and asthma. Wow. All because of your childhood. And so this is why I combat this big T, little t thing, because that little t was so traumatic, it impacted your life, coloring to the point where you're crippled now as an adult of trying to be who you are. And then you add all of the other experiences to life, and you're kind of set up for failure.
Do you start, when you're trying to help somebody, do you always start from a standpoint, and I'm going to internalize this for myself for a minute. I don't have, I was raised good family, good parents, Midwest, lower middle class, wasn't poor, I had a good childhood, right? And so I've always said, I don't have any trauma. I got nothing going on. But there are areas of my life that I am broken, for lack of a better term. I mean, just little things, for example, I told this story in a recent podcast where if I hire a contractor to do work and they go do the work and they do the work wrong, they come over they come over to get paid. And I look at it and I see that it's done incorrectly. I will look at them and they'll say, I'm all done. And I'll say, great, cash or check. And I'll pay them and then I'll go fix the problem later. That is a broken part of me. And I know that. Is that always some trauma that caused that? Is just that's personality? Do we start with the what's broken and then try to work back to figure out what that was? Do you start in the past with memories and try to work forward? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I mean, it just depends. And when you say something like that to me, I go, obviously you're conflict avoidant.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And I mean, that's just...
Alex is laughing at me over there. Because Alex is the exact opposite. He will start conflict just to have conflict.
Yeah. There are people like that too, right? And so, but I look at that and I go, okay, well, what was household like? What was it like when mom and dad got in a fight? Did they avoid? Did they not address things? When they were upset at each other, did they just pretend it wasn't there? Right? And so I can paint a picture about your whole life in a sentence. And I can see your reaction.
Dude. Dude, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's both forward and backwards. Right. It's again, it's quantum. Like I really believe that. It's like looking at it from understanding both the current impact and the past impact and the future impact, and looking at it and mapping it all out.
Yeah.
And someone can tell me a single sentence like that, and I can paint a picture that if you didn't tell me, you'd be like, how the fuck did this guy know this?
That's exactly what I'm thinking right now.
I can see the look on your face right now where like you're a little caught off guard by this, right? But I do this every single day with thousands and thousands of people, right? And how do I know this? Because it's just psychology at its simplest, right? We are, whether or not we like it, we are the totality of all of our experiences. And so when I see someone who has relationships that are fractured, where they cheat on their girlfriend, I go, I bet your dad cheated on your mom. Right? When I see people who are in crippling debt, like I was when I was 25 and $50,000 in, I bet bill collectors used to call your house every day.
Yeah.
And I bet your mom used to say, don't you dare answer that phone. Right? And so it's all in the same way success leaves clues, so do the places of stuckness. But it's easier to track success, right? Because it's not uncomfortable. It doesn't hurt as bad. And when you think about the survival mechanisms that we have, what do we chase? We chase pleasure. We chase the dopamine hit. We chase the thing about feeling alive. We don't want to chase the reality of the moments that make us not be the complete and full version of ourselves, because it sucks.
Yeah.
And so what I always tell people when they come into coaching with me, I'm like, I'm never going to address anything that you don't bring up first. Right? And so you go, why do I do this? Why do I not address it with the contractor? And I go, that's why.
Yeah.
And you go, shit, how did you know that?
Dude, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I don't want to toss my parents under the bus.
No,
so
of course not.
Yeah, I won't.
That's not what we're doing.
Yeah. But like when you said that, like my parents fought a lot and loud, right? And I was the peacemaker. I'd go to each of them.
Of course you were.
I'd calm them down. I'd bring them together. All growing up, I was the peacemaker. And dude, it never occurred to me until this very moment that that's why I hate conflict. Because I saw my parents in conflict, not only daily, but often. They're still together. They've worked it out a lot. But man, it was
So think about this for a second.
Yeah.
You can stop me if this gets uncomfortable for you. But this is what I do with people all day long.
Yeah.
So you're in this position now as an adult where that's your reality, right? And we can puzzle some pieces together in real time where you're looking back at that and you're going, fuck, you're right. And then I go, okay, but do you know why? And this is where people don't go deep enough, because what they do, they look at it as face value, but they do not factor in that the why is survival equals safety in childhood. You're making meaning of circumstances. If I can create peace, the house is safe. I have to be the peacemaker so I have safety.
Yeah.
If I have safety, the world is in congruency with my ideal of survival. And if it's not, I've got to find a way to solve this problem so that I'm not in a hypervigilant state, because my body is in the sympathetic nervous system in fight or flight constantly otherwise. It's just biology.
Yeah.
It's not even that complicated. We just aren't taught these things.
Yeah.
And so you can probably place in your brain these moments of childhood where you're like, I don't get sleep at night. I don't feel like I can connect with other humans. I get lost in my own emotions. And when I do get mad, I stuff them down because it reminds me of them.
That's so true, man. Yeah, I lived in, Alex is nodding his head. Yeah, I lived in this constant fear that my parents were going to get a divorce. It was the scariest thing in the world. And every time they fought, that was the fear that I just this crippling fear of like, they're going to get a divorce.
Yeah.
And, thank God, like they pulled through, like I said, but man, like I was frightened of that. And then the uncertainty that comes with that.
Yeah. And that's it right there.
Yeah.
Uncertainty. Because the thing that we chase for survival is certainty. Right? And so if you have certainty by being the peacemaker, now you feel safe.
Yeah. Dude, this is good, man. This is really good. I could talk about this for hours, but I want to ask a couple more questions.
Sure.
One, people maybe aren't, if people are watching a situation like your childhood from the outside looking in, their cousin, their nephew, their niece, the neighbor kid, and they see just trauma happening, they see that kind of situation, what can somebody outside do something? Like,